my channel. I just got back from the last video that I filmed, and I actually don't know which one's gonna go live first, this one or that one, but I just cooked a ton of chocolate chip cookies as the end of my last vlog, and I ate like 5 of them, and I don't know how I feel about it. I feel kind of like so sick, but at the same time I'm like, oh, it's Christmas, you know, it's fine. But maybe not, because my stomach really hurts. So today I just wanted to talk about kind of some tips and tricks that I've used that have helped me when it comes to dealing with anxiety and depression. And especially as we're kind of getting into the holidays and the winter months, I know that this can be something that a lot of people kind of struggle with. The number one tip I can possibly say, and I don't know if I'm planning on filming some workouts for this channel at some point, and I probably won't have done that by the time that this video is going live, and I want to be able to get like a few more videos up for you guys. So I'm probably not going to wait until I film a workout, but the number one thing you can do is to work out in some way, whether it's actually going to the gym, or if you have some kind of hobby you like that is athletic, like playing soccer or doing like jiu-jitsu or dance or anything like that. That's just gonna make the biggest difference that I can possibly think of to tell you. As I'm sure most of you guys already know, when you work out, your body releases endorphins and you also get a dopamine rush, and both of those things work together to make you feel really good. It also boosts serotonin levels and just overall is a natural and healthy way to change your actual chemistry to make yourself feel good. Now, you might not like it going into it, and you might really resist the idea of going. I know that when I start to get really depressed, it can be so hard to even get myself to the gym, but if you just make yourself, no matter what, like just don't even think about it while you're doing it, just get there before you even realize like what you're doing. Then when you get there, you're already there, so you might as well work out, and it will make such a huge difference. Like afterwards, you're gonna realize how necessary it was and how much it helped you. To go along with this, I always write out my workouts before I go to the gym, because then it feels like it's already set in stone. You have to do what you wrote down, and if you're like me, then you will literally tell yourself like, I have to do what I wrote down. Even if it's really hard, I wrote it down, so I have to get it done. And even if like you want to cancel what you decided you were gonna do, like if you're in the middle of like doing a bunch of sit-ups or something, this was me showing you what a sit-up is. Even if you're in the middle of doing like sit-ups or something and you're exhausted and you're like, I can't do another set, then if you're like me, you're gonna tell yourself, nope, I have to because I wrote it down, and like, I'm sorry that it's hard, and maybe we'll write something different for the future, but because it's written down, you have to get through it today. And then 9 times out of 10, I'm so happy that I did it. And if it really is too hard, then you really can kind of modulate it for the future. But if you got it done that day, then you're gonna just feel so good, and it kind of creates a really good precedent of not breaking promises to yourself and not saying that you're gonna do one thing and then changing your mind, because that is a really bad habit, and that will keep you from getting done a lot of things that you want to get done, not just in working out, but in like every avenue of your life, basically. So if you're thinking like, if you're gonna study for a test or something, and you tell yourself, I'm gonna study for a half an hour, and then you're like, oh, well, I don't know, 5 minutes in, I'm not feeling it. If you are used to breaking promises to yourself, then you're gonna quit, and if you're not, then you're gonna be like, no, I have to finish this half hour. But I can do a whole video another time on how to get into a workout regime and how to stick to it and kind of tips like that. But for right now, all I want to say is that working out is going to be your best friend in dealing with anxiety and depression, and it's one of the main things that gets me to the gym, is knowing how much it helps me. Another great thing you probably already know for anxiety and for depression is journaling. And actually not just journaling, but doing things like bullet journaling, keeping a really good schedule, all of those things will help with both of those struggles. So if you have a really good schedule, then that helps so much with anxiety, because you can write down everything you need to do and when you need to have it done by, or when you need to do it, and then it's not in your head playing over and over while you're trying to fall asleep. And for me at least, that's really important. The more that I write things down, the more I can get them out of my head, if that makes sense. The more that I can tell myself, stop obsessing about this thing, because you already wrote it down, so you already know that it's gonna get done and you're not gonna forget about it. And writing in a journal in general definitely helps with anxiety and depression, and honestly most mental health problems, because you can kind of almost do therapy with yourself. Going to a therapist is another one of my tips that I'll talk about in a minute, but at the same time, like, doing kind of some internal work with your own self is a really good idea, and it can help you find the root of your anxiety or your depression without even needing a professional's help at that time. So like some things that people do that help a lot is just kind of doing some like stream of consciousness kind of writings, and writing about how you're feeling, and then some of the possible reasons that you're thinking up of why you're feeling. And sometimes I won't even realize like that whatever I'm feeling is connected to something else that happened in my past or something, until I'm actually there in the process of writing it, and suddenly like it's almost like it's coming out on the paper before I even realize that I'm thinking it. So it can be such a good introspective tool. So especially when it gets into the winter months, I think it can be easy to kind of isolate yourself, and that is really not going to help with especially depression. So if you are finding yourself kind of more likely to hibernate a little over the winter, then one of my tips would be to kind of push yourself to get out there, to make plans every weekend, to be getting out of your house and not just hermiting like I know some of us have a tendency to do. So as I started to say, one of my biggest tips as well for this time of year is to socialize. Don't just lock yourself away and kind of accept that it's cold and like think to yourself like, I don't need to be around people, because it's never going to be the case. We all need social interaction, some of us more than others, and some of us, like if you're introverted like I am, you have a tendency to feel exhausted from like socializing. And so then if it's like already cold and you're already tired and don't have energy and you're starting to get a little bit depressed, then it's easy to put that on the wayside. What am I trying to say? Like kick it to the curb or whatever. Put it on the back burner. There we go. But if you do that, then you are so much more likely to get so much more sad. And so many times if I make myself just make plans with somebody and go follow through, or if somebody asks me if I want to do something and I make myself go and do it, I feel so much better. It's amazing. Like, it's like, even though if you're introverted, like you draw your energy and you need to recharge in private, you still, I don't know if this is the same for everybody or if it's just for me, but like, it's like I have to go in private to like renew my energy, but I have to go out with friends to like renew my soul, as cheesy as that sounds. Like, it's like a different kind of energy that you get from other people and from interacting with others, and it's really important as well. So don't neglect it just because it's cold and dreary and you want to just hibernate in your room. So some of these are kind of obvious, but doing things like taking deep breaths and meditating can help a lot with anxiety. And even if it's just like something in the moment, like if you realize you're doing a nervous habit, so mine are like biting my lips or biting, like I go like this, biting the edge of my fingers. It's such a bad habit, and I've done it for so long. Like, I remember genuinely being in elementary school and having my elementary, like, Christian school teacher being like, you need to stop, and I'm gonna tell you that the reason why is because I know somebody who still does it after years and years, and she wishes that somebody had made her stop when she was a kid. And I was like, yeah, right. And I just kept doing it, and now it's years and years later, and I really wish that I had gotten out of the habit. But it's an anxious habit, and it's hard to stop. So when you realize that you're doing those habits, if you do have anxiety and you do things like that, then just stop and take a deep, deep breath and try to figure out what you're anxious about, because sometimes thoughts will just be running through our head that we don't even really recognize, and that's amazing to me. And it's so insightful to stop when you realize that you're doing something like that and say, what was I just thinking about? And realize that you're like scared that you're gonna fail something, or you're thinking about like, I'm not gonna have enough time to do all these things, and just take a deep breath and kind of come back to the present moment, which goes into like the meditation. There's a book called The Power of Now, I think it's called, and it's by Eckhart Tolle, and it's so helpful in this, I feel like, and it's helped me a lot with my anxiety, because all of it is kind of about how like, I'm not all the way through the book yet, I'm just like a few chapters in, but so far it's been so helpful, because a lot of it is about how like nothing is happening to you in the moment. Like, nothing is happening to make you feel these negative feelings in the moment. So whatever you're feeling that's negative, it's related to something in either the past or the future, and that's useless. So there's nothing you can do. Another quote that I really love is that worrying about something is putting yourself through it twice. And I think that that is so powerful and such a big help, because you sit there and you worry about something that may or may not happen, and worst case scenario is that it does happen, and then you wasted all that time when you could have at least been happy that it wasn't happening yet, worried about it happening and feeling all those bad feelings as though it was happening. So it's really kind of a powerful reminder that there's no point in doing that. And going along with stopping like those anxious habits, you can also get like a fidget or like a sensory tool. We used to have these when I worked at St. Anne's for the kids, and I like would love picking one up and using them myself. And I still do it, especially with my phone. I use like the pop socket. I like play with it in and out all the time. And like in some ways it's another anxious habit, but at least it's not something that's like, you know, like, I don't know, I feel like it's worse to pick at your skin than to do something external like that just kind of helps you with fidgeting. With it getting into the winter, another big tip that I have as far as depression is to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. And this includes the basics of exercising, as we talked about, eating healthy meals. That's a big one, because you're gonna feel like crap if you're eating junk food, and then you're gonna feel worse about yourself, and you don't need that on top of already being sad kind of with the winter. Make sure that you're still like keeping up whatever like your beauty routine is that you're comfortable with. Make sure that you're keeping it up, because it's so easy, I feel like, to want to hibernate a little, and then you just, like, I don't know, like stop shaving your legs or something, and then you just feel like you don't want to go anywhere ever. And I definitely don't suggest that. Like, I've done that like in high school. I used to get really depressed over the winter, like way more than I have since, and I used to just kind of give up over the winter. That's what it feels like. It feels like giving up, and it's really important, I think, to not do that, because if you kind of give up, then it feels like giving up on yourself. And no matter how you feel about, like, you know, like if you want to get into a whole talk about like beauty standards or whatever, that's a separate thing, but I'm just saying that you should keep up whatever the same standards are that you have for yourself that make yourself feel good, and not quit them just because you're depressed, if that makes sense. So another important thing that you can do is you can talk to your friends about how you're feeling. And I know that this one can be hard, because you don't always know how they're going to react, or you don't know if they're going to understand like what you're going through, or you don't want to, like, if you're like me, like you sometimes have a tendency to feel like you might be burdening people with these feelings, or you're worried that you're going to be like kind of dumping your own stuff on them. But most of the time, like, people are happy to help. If you think about when somebody comes to you for advice or something, you're not typically like annoyed at them or anything. You want to help. So people want to help you too, and that's not to say like necessarily like every single day text like the same friend and be like, oh, my life sucks so much. Like, you have to do a lot of your own work in feeling better, but you can definitely kind of express that you're having a hard time, and a lot of times people will have good advice for you and be able to kind of help you in that way. Another tip that I have is one that you kind of have to be careful with, because it can definitely become a bad habit, but if you just do it once in a while, it's not so bad. And maybe like once a month or something, go out and buy yourself something nice. Basically, I'm saying like go treat yourself, because if you're sad and depressed, then I'm not saying that like you should have materialistic things always be making you feel better, but it can sometimes give you like that little boost that you need to have the energy to go out and do other things that are actually more important for you. So say you buy like a new shirt or something, and then with that new shirt, then suddenly like you have like the energy to go out and see your friends and to go wear that new shirt places and stuff like that. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I take retail therapy like to the next level, but I think that it's a really nice way to kind of bring yourself out of a funk. If your anxiety and depression are related to the holidays, I will talk about that really quick. And first I'll talk about, sorry, I got a text, I was reading it. So first I'll talk about depression for the holidays. So if you have like a difficult family situation and you're not sure like what you're doing for the holidays or something, my biggest tip is to make plans, even if you're having to ask, like, your friends, like, what are you doing? Like, can I come crash or something? Like, they're not gonna be offended or bothered. Like, if somebody asked me if I was doing anything for Christmas, because they didn't have anything to do, I would absolutely bring them with me to wherever I was going, and I think that it would just be the more the merrier. Do you know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to turn someone away at Christmas time, and nobody's gonna think worse of you. Like, I know that can be hard because if you, for some reason, don't have somewhere to go, and then you don't want to, like, tell people that you don't want to feel, like, pitiful, but that's just not a good strategy, because you're just making it up in your head that they're gonna see it that way, and most people aren't, and from my experience at least. Like, I would never see it that way if somebody needed a place to go, and I've, like, been on both sides. I've, like, been inviting kind of, sort of, like, even people that I wasn't that good friends with, but who didn't have anywhere to go. I've had them over for holidays before, and it was just a fun time, and they brought over a dish, and, like, we all just enjoyed it, and we enjoyed their company. And I've also had, like, I had a Christmas where, like, my family was out of town, and Garrett was working, and I didn't know what to do, so I kind of just, like, I didn't want to tell anybody that I didn't know what to do, so I just stayed home. And then I was really sad about it, because Christmas is my favorite holiday. So afterwards, when I was telling my friends, they were, like, shocked, and they were like, why did you not tell us? Like, you could have come to one of our things. But I, like, had been nervous to say, like, oh, wow, like, I don't have anywhere to go for Christmas, and I didn't want to tell people that. But, anybody who cares about you is gonna care enough to take you, like, with them, or they're not gonna think less of you. They're just gonna want to share their holiday joy. So my first tip is tell somebody that you don't have anywhere to go. You don't have to say it like that if you don't want to, but basically ask people what they're doing, make plans for Christmas so you're not just home alone. And if you're anxious about the holiday season, just take a deep breath, and as cheesy as this sounds, remember what it's all about. Remember that it's not about buying the perfect presents or getting every single person something. As much fun as I think those things can be to do, if it's making you anxious to the point that you're having a real problem with it, then just take a deep breath and regroup. Like, worst case scenario, you can get people a card, and if you can afford to, then worst case scenario, you can just go out and pick up like one of those packs of a bunch of, like, Starbucks gift cards. So don't get so worked up about finding everybody the perfect present, because it's supposed to be a fun thing that, like, comes from the heart if you're getting your friends presents, not something that is causing you a ton of stress. And if you're anxious about seeing your family, I know that everybody has different family situations, and they're not always, like, it can be hard for me to know what you're going through, but I will say that sometimes if you're anxious that people are going to be judging you or something like that, think about whether or not you have any proof of that actually happening, or whether you're just kind of, I don't want to say imagining it, because I'm not saying it's all in your head, but whether you're kind of building it up, like preparing yourself for that to happen, versus whether it's actually happening. Just because I know from my experience, some people in my family, like, they struggle with that. They struggle with anxiety around the holidays because they're worried that other family members are judging them. And the truth is that nobody cares as much as we think about us. As much as that sounds harsh, like, most people don't care. So don't let that be a reason that you're getting yourself worked up. And if you do have proof that somebody is, like, thinking negatively of you or anything like that, it honestly almost just doesn't matter. Like, that's about them, and so just recognizing that that's a them problem and not your problem can help you to kind of have compassion for them and not take it personally, if that makes sense. Because anybody who is having enough of a problem with you to, like, have it show at holiday times, that's a problem with them, and we should just show them as much love and compassion as possible. And if it's a really bad situation, then don't go. And again, see step 1 where you make plans with other friends. Alright guys, I think that that's about it. That's everything that I have for ways to fight anxiety and depression, especially at this time of year and during the holidays. This video was actually requested by somebody, so I hope that they're watching and that they're enjoying it and that it is helpful. And I love you guys all so much. I hope that you all have somewhere amazing to be celebrating Christmas. Let me know down in the comments what you're going to be doing, or if you don't have somewhere to celebrate, let me know, and we'll just virtually celebrate and give each other a big old internet hug. I feel like that girl at the end of Mean Girls, but I am just feeling so loving. I'm feeling the Christmas spirit. So I just want you all to know that I love you so, so much. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if it helped at all, and subscribe to my channel, and also check out my other social medias, which will be linked down below. Thank you, and have an amazing Christmas. Bye.